Hey everyone, so in this video I'm going to talk about what I now think is my second favorite movie of the year, just behind Dune Part 2, which is an absolute masterpiece. I've made a couple of videos on Dune Part 2, you can check it out, but that movie is just something that comes, I believe, once in a lifetime. I do think it's one of the greatest science fiction movies of all time, but let's talk about Challengers, which now I think is my second favorite movie of the year, which does not say a lot because there are not a lot of great movies that have come out so far, but that is expected. During the start of the year we don't expect those Oscar level movies or even the summer blockbusters to come out, so it's natural that we have, right now at least in my opinion, two great movies. Now Challengers, if you just look at the plot, it's not very great. Like, it's a love triangle, we've seen it 1,000 times. If I told you to summarize the movie in just 5 lines, it will probably be a very boring plot line. Like, these love triangles are so frustrating and irritating, and it's like a soap opera kind of thing, which is generally not my kind of cinema. But when a movie comes out directed by Luca Guadagnino, hope I didn't screw up that pronunciation, but when a movie comes out that is directed by him, you have to pay attention, because he's one of those singular directors that is so unique from anything else that we have in Hollywood. We do have those kinds of directors, like there is Chris Nolan, there is Scorsese, which has his own kind of movie, there is Spielberg, there is Tarantino. Everyone has their imprint, and Luca Guadagnino definitely has his imprint. His movies are very sensual, his movies are very sexy, his movies are very thought provoking, and yet very simple as well. And Challenges is nothing different. There are a lot of things to love in this movie, even though the plot is very formulaic. Like, I don't think you can make a movie better than this with the plot line that it has. Like, there are things that happen in the movie that will make your eyes roll, usually, especially at the ending. Like, when I first saw the ending, I was like, what the fuck just happened? How should I react to it? It took me a while to basically think and marinate over the movie and then have my thoughts on what the ending actually meant. And I think that will be my focus on this video, at least as I dissect the three main characters, which I think are one of the most interesting characters throughout the year. If you take out Paul Atreides, which is obviously an amazing character, but if you take out Paul Atreides, I think these three characters demand a video on themselves alone. But in this video, I'll try to dissect each of them. So let's start with Zendaya's character, which is Tashi. And let me just say that it may sound complicated and it may seem complex to think about a character, but in the end, she's just obsessed with pure tennis. Like, I think if she did not get injured, yes, she was into those threesomes, and yes, she might have had affairs and all, but it would never have been this intense had she never got her leg fractured or permanently damaged. I think the fact that her leg got damaged and she had to basically root for someone else, she was dependent on someone else, someone else's success, how that person feels, basically started to monitoring how she felt. The person she actually marries in the end, art success in tennis basically becomes her success, and his passion becomes her passion because he represents her in the court. And in the movie, you see that Art's passion towards tennis is decreasing. He has won everything in tennis, there's nothing much more to left, and all Art wants is the unconditional love of Tashi, which is very weird because all Tashi wants is for Art to do well in tennis, and as long as Art does well in tennis, she'll love him. So she has that conditional love, whereas Art is the person who wants that unconditional love. But Art's problem is that he's madly in love with Tashi. He says this line many times in the movie that who wouldn't love Tashi? He just loves her unconditionally, and I think that's the only pure form of love that I actually see in the movie. The rest of the things are very artificial and very casual, I would say, especially when we talk about Patrick. So Patrick is the one who basically, I would say, manipulates others really well. He knows what everyone wants, he knows what everyone is thinking, and based on those facts, he's able to manipulate them. So, for example, he tells Zendaya's character Tashi about Art, how Art wants to retire, even before Art tells Tashi. So when Art actually confesses to Tashi that he wants to retire, they both have sex. I mean, Patrick and Tashi have that haunting affair just before their final match, which is again an insane point when you think about the fact that Art asks Tashi that if I lose the final match, you'll still love me, right? Like, you also love me unconditionally, right? And Tashi right up says to him that if he loses the match, then she's going to leave him, which I found absolutely hilarious. Like if you only like hear this review, then you might feel like I'm describing a movie like Twilight or some garbage like 50 Shades of Grey. But the way that Luca Guadagnino directs this movie, the amazing soundtrack, and how sexy this movie is without any sex scene. There's no sex scene. Like there are sexy scenes, but there's no sex scene. So for a movie that has no direct sex scenes, I would say this is probably one of the sexiest movies of all time, and that really basically immerses you into the experience. Like the movie basically seduces you into its frame totally. Like you could say that I was hypnotized by the movie. Like I know that the movie is probably not um, very clever or very new or very thought provoking in its screenplay. The screenplay is pretty fine, but the way that the director uses music in some of the scenes to for us to generate that kind of arousal and seduction and those kinds of feelings, it was really incredibly well done. And like one of the greatest things about movies is that at least for the great movies is that when you keep thinking about it, it generally gets better. The more you hear about the soundtrack, the more you listen to the soundtrack, the more you read about what other people thought about the movie, you may have a totally different interpretation about each of them. Like I do think that I in the end rooted for Art most, because I think that he was the pure character in the movie. He was the one who was the moral compass of the movie, you could say. Not that he didn't do bad things, of course he did, but he was the one who truly loved Tashi for who she was. And maybe it was also infatuation. Like Art was also infatuated by Tashi, did not actually love her for who she was, because the way they all met, it was so casual, and how they met as well, and that famous scene that's there in the trailer as well. And when you see that scene play out, you knew that something was going to happen that was that would screw things up in the future. Like those kinds of things, when it happens, it destroys friendships, it destroys everything. So yeah, coming back to the final shot of the movie, or the final scene of the movie, where basically Patrick reveals to Art that he had sex with Tashi the night before their match by using that tennis sign, by putting that ball in that spot on the racket. And then Art basically knows that Tashi again basically fucked Patrick. And then Art literally loses it, as anyone would. Tashi and Art have now a kid as well, and they are a family now. So it was very irresponsible of Tashi to go out. But again, she was that character in the movie who was just obsessed with tennis. She did not care about literally anything in the world, I think. Not even her daughter, or not even Art, or even Patrick, I would say. She just wanted to see the best of tennis. Like, that's how I describe her character. So when that final shot happens and Art finds out that they had sex, Art basically gives up a couple of points, and the match then goes to tiebreak. And in the tiebreak, Art suddenly switches. Something happens to him that he wants to basically fight back. Now, what exactly causes that is up to debate, and it is pretty ambiguous. But I think that Art throughout his life never had that passion for tennis itself. Like he always liked to play tennis because of his best friend, and later because of Tashi, but he never had that passion about it the way Tashi had, or even maybe Patrick had. So after so many things that happened to him, when he found out that Tashi basically fucked Patrick, something ignited inside him that for the first time in the movie pushed him towards tennis in a more aggressive way, in a more passionate way, in a way that Tashi approaches tennis. So basically, for the first time, I think Art showed qualities that Tashi possessed, and basically Art and Patrick have this amazing rally, and in the end, Art basically jumps out and he touches the net, and he's about to fall down, but Patrick catches him, and they both basically hug each other on the ground, which is another callback to what happened earlier in the movie. And Tashi gets up and claps. So this is the most puzzling part, in my opinion. When I first saw the movie, I knew that the director was going to end the movie at this point, because it was the perfect point for all of us to have a conversation. But I think Tashi was clapping and was happy because she finally saw a rally that made her proud, and everything about tennis that she personally wanted to achieve, she saw on the court. Like you could see that the final rally was insane, because even the judges' reaction and everyone on the court were witnessing something truly special. And Tashi was always so passionate about tennis. All she wanted was to see tennis at its highest peak, and I think she saw that, and that was partly the reason why she was so happy. I think another factor was that she was finally able to see both of them together again in a way that they were before. Like I know it's just a hug, and probably after that fall they'll probably have another rally or two and again get bitter and again have affairs and all those kinds of things. But for that fleeting moment, there was some brotherhood between them, and how things were before, like when they were 18. They were able to basically go back through the time machine and basically relive those times, and everything just connected between those three and that moment, and that's where we saw the ending of the movie. And I thought that it was great. Like I said, at first I was very puzzled, but I knew that once I did think about it, it all made sense to me. So I hope that it all made sense to you as well. Maybe the ending did not click for you as much as it did for me. I know that most of the people love this movie. Like, it has a very high Rotten Tomatoes rating and Metacritic rating, and even IMDb rating. I think it's around 7.8 or 8, which is very high for this kind of a movie, which is very unconventional. There are things happening in the movie that most of the audiences wouldn't accept, at least from where I am. Like, when I went to see the movie, it was only me and a couple of other people in the theater. Even though it's a Zendaya movie, there was not much grace for it because I think of the subject matter. Like I think many of the people who went to see the movie were couples, but in India, I don't think people would take their girlfriends to watch this. Although I would probably, but I don't think most people will. So if you like this like informal analysis of the movie, please do hit that like and subscribe button, and many thanks for watching. I'll be coming up with more such informal videos, and I'm trying to improve with each video, so thanks for sticking around.